Hey everyone, Kilted here. Look, I had somebody request that I kind of go over how to adjust sights on Mauser style rifles, right? But understand this is kind of going to explain anything with fixed iron sights, okay? Now, I'm going to be demonstrating the sights with rear sight, front sight, right? Okay? So let's sit here and say we've gotten our new rifle or we've gotten a new pistol or whatever, and we're going to go out and test fire it, right? Now, you would assume that every gun is sighted in and you should hit the target exactly where you want it, right? That's a wonderful assumption. That is not true, okay? Because everyone that picks up that rifle is going to shoulder it different, it's going to hold it slightly different, so on and so forth. So when they come from the factory, they are pretty darn close, but they're not exactly on. Okay? I hope that makes sense. So I've got three different rifles here. Two are, well, one's a Mauser, one's a Mauser ish weapon. It's an Arasaka. That's a fun history. If y'all want me to go through that, I can. And the last one is a Swiss K31, right? But let me explain it this way, okay? So if if your firearm has an adjustable rear sight, right? That is where you're going to do everything because honestly, in most situations, that's the easiest, right? If the rear sight is adjustable, it's the easiest one to adjust because usually it's either a screw or a knob or something along those lines, right? So we went out and we shot, and everything is left, okay? Then we moved the rear sight left, okay? So we sat here and thought we were lined up like this, but we're actually lined up like this, right? So now we're bringing it back in, okay? Plain and simple. The front sight is opposite, okay? So if it's shooting to the left, you need to move it to the right. I know, it's confusing as hell, okay? But it's not just as simple as, oh, let me sit here and grab a punch and grab a hammer and whack the hell out of it, right? Because that's not the proper way of doing it, okay? First off. Secondly, you're going to get pissed off, okay? Sights, in most cases, front sights are dovetailed in, right? In most cases, that's the way it's done. Now, there are exceptions like, AR-15, it's a screw in most of the time. And then, like with the Colt 1911, it is staked in a lot of times, not all the times. Luckily, people are going to dovetail on that, which that's a completely different thing for me. So, what you also have to remember, excuse me, my sinuses, is you don't have to move it a lot. So, once again, if we're right here and I'm moving the front sight here, right? I could move it that little. You see what I'm saying? And that make a world of difference. You're not sitting here and moving it all the way to one side or the other. You're just not, okay? If you're having to get that to where the sight is barely held into the dovetail, there's something more wrong, and you need to take it to a gunsmith. Also, what you need to understand for rifles is a fair amount of them have basically rules on how to do it. Now, what do I mean by that? Something, for instance, like the K98. I'm trying to remember. But if you move the front sight 0.005 inches, so 5/1000ths of an inch, that will change 1 inch of movement at It's either 100 yards or 100 meters. I can't remember. Okay? But that's not the same for like an M1 Garand, right? That's completely different. Okay? So that's where it gets a little bit of be fun as well. I've got books that have this stuff written down of where I've just learned or have found something out, and I jot it down in that book, right? So yeah. Now, there's also different ways of going about doing it, like I said. So what we're going to start off with is this beat up. I love this thing. It is a Turkish made Gua 98, right? So it's got the straight bolt handle, it's the full rifle length, that kind of thing, and it has the flat sights rather than the roller coaster sights, right? Which, that's a fun history I can go into as well. But if you look at the front sight here, you see I've got it moved pretty far over on one side, right? Okay, and you can see this front sight is beat all to hell and back to where I'm actually going to replace this front sight. Okay, now what you're supposed to do is basically it's a little C-clamp essentially that's got screws on either side, right? And whichever way you need to move it is the side that you tighten in a screw, and you loosen the screw on the other side, and you know the thread pitch of the screws to where you know, okay, one full revolution is going to give me 10 thousandths, right? So if I only needed to move it an inch, if we follow the K98, by which this is not the same as the K98 when it comes to this sight radius, trust me, okay? But if we follow the same rules, then that would be a half a turn that I would move it, okay? But this one has been bashed on multiple times by somebody with a punch, okay? And that's why it just looks so nasty and ugly, and yeah, I'm going to replace it, right? So if everything was shooting to my left, which is over here, then I would actually tap that right, okay? Just a little bit, not tap, but you know what I mean, okay? Now, what gets interesting is with a lot of Mauser action rifles, much like this is an Arisaka, right? Wait, no, this isn't the Arisaka. I'm sitting here screwing up. I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm sorry, it's been a lot of long days. All right, this is the Arisaka. Yeah, this looks better. This looks right. You have a full front hood, right? And if you look, you can see what looks to be a seam all the way around, okay? That means this hood is actually soldered on, and in a lot of them, they are got a screw in there as well that screws down and fits into a dimple that's in the barrel, okay? Once again, there's another tool that would go in here and go through the slots. Like you can see, it's blocked off up here, so you basically just have a square peg, right? But it would go in and move it as well, okay? So once again, it's really a lot similar, but these are soldered on to be a window, right? So the sight can only move in between these two areas, right? So if you have the blade, if you have the blade all the way here to the side, that's a problem. You know that's a problem with the barrel more than likely, right? So you want to keep it relatively in the center, and then an armorer would get it dialed in a little bit further for you, okay? Now the Swiss did things a little differently, okay? And that brings me to this one. So it is still Mauser-esque, right? So we've got this hood that is soldered on and that kind of thing. But if you look, the dovetail's in the front and is off-centered, right? So let me raise it up. So you can see it there, and you can see where they staked it, right? You see that line? I'm trying to hold on to everything. So that line right there on the side is where it's staked, and that is not necessarily a proof mark, but an armorer's mark, right? So with this, the tool actually moves it forward or back, because since it's on this slanted angle, and it would help with going left and right. So on something like this, we would actually have to either push it forward or push it back rather than push it left or right, okay? So it does make things a little bit easier, and you can get a lot more fine-tuning with a setup like this, okay? So, yeah, that's about it. Now, once again, most rifles are going to have a fixed rear sight, right? So this one's got a fixed windage rear sight, but you can change the elevation, right, by pushing this little button and sliding, okay? And yeah, this one's been drilled and tapped. It's a shooter. I love it. So yeah, but you can't really adjust you can and you can't at the same time. I know that's confusing as hell. If it got to when this one was in service and the armor could not fix it with the front sight, right, then they would probably, one, give you a second gun and see if it's you, right? And if it is you, they take the first gun, or excuse me, if it's not you and it's the gun, then they would take the first gun back and completely strip it and rework it. If there was a situation to where that wasn't feasible, then yes, there is ways to move this rear sight left and right slightly. It's a major pain in the butt, but it's the best thing that you can do. So just remember, if you have an adjustable rear sight and you're shooting, you move it the way that you want the bullets to move, okay? If you're only working with the front sight, you want it to move the opposite way of what the bullets are shooting, right? Okay, I hope that's as clear as mud. Because that, shooting iron sights, and I've shot a lot of iron sights, that's honestly what I usually shoot. And that's with pistols, shotguns, rifles, when I'm hunting, when I'm just out plinking. Hell, when I shot competition, that's what I used, right? And the main reason is because I've seen it time and time again. Optics fail, right? Plain and simple. Optics failed. And then they're just sitting here going, my scope don't work. I can't shoot nothing no more. I got to go out and spend another $1,000 on a scope, right? When I'm sitting here going, but you still have iron sights on it, right? So, rip the scope off, use the iron sights, and you can save the hunt or save the competition. Are you going to do as well? No. But can you still compete? Yes. Right? So that's my philosophy. I have a couple of scoped rifles for deer hunting, but not many. So yeah. But anyways, I hope and pray that this helps you out a little bit, okay? And I tried to explain it the best that I can with the limitations that I have. I know in the past, Iraq Veteran 8888 has done a video on this. It's probably been 8+ years ago, right? But I know he has more cameras and angles and things of that nature that he can kind of do than what I have. So anyways, I'm going to let y'all go. This is just going to be a kind of short video right at 15 minutes. I hope y'all have enjoyed this. I hope this has helped somebody. If I need to do any more clarification or anything like that, let me know down in the comments. If you have any other ideas or requests for videos, let me know. I'm going to try to keep all of that going, right? That way I can help out y'all as much as possible without getting myself into liability issues. So yeah, anyways, Y'all have fun.